Let's go ahead and take roll call, please.
Okay. Director Decker,
Yes.
Director Harvey,
Here.
Director Lohman,
Here.
Director Slater Carter,
Yes, here.
Director Boyd is not present.
He's not able to attend. I don't have a president's statement. Oral comments on items other than those on the agenda. Anybody? Rick?
Yeah, I'd like to do a quick report for folks who weren't able to follow the recent supervisor activities because of the census and people making more of them and moving around. The San Mateo County had to redistrict itself. They set up a 15-person commission who held many public meetings, lots of input. The input from the public seemed to focus on two alternatives for new districts. One which would give more representation to underrepresented minorities on the coast, or communities of interest, as they are called now. And the other main public proposal was to increase the representation for the unincorporated people. These two options were eventually, after many public meetings, forwarded to the Board of Supervisors, who have the actual power. The Board of Supervisors held two meetings, and a couple days ago decided to totally ignore all public input and just redid the districts basically as they are exactly now. So we have 10 more years of pretty much exactly the same representation. Not a single public member in any meeting supported the option the supervisors picked.
Wow.
And I'm probably going to close comment at that point. So
Okay.
if you're happy with what we have, you have 10 more years of it. And there's one quote, I will have to paraphrase this because I don't have it. One of the supervisors, after receiving some criticism on this, says, "We are doing a great job. We understand minorities. We are doing a great job of representing everybody. If you don't like it, we have elections coming up, and just go ahead and elect new supervisors."
Wow.
So I'm going to end my public comment on that note. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, Rick, thank you. Any other oral comments? Okay, if not, there's no public hearing. There's no consent agenda. There's no old business, and there is new business. The first item, number one, is information about SB 1383 San Mateo County Edible Food Recovery Program.
Yeah, thank you, Jim. We've been talking here a number of times about the Senate Bill 1383, particularly in the context of the new services that Recology will provide starting at the beginning of January 3. And we also mentioned before a number of times that we have for our December 2nd meeting, the adoption of this essentially of an ordinance that allows us to do this planned. We also have scheduled the adoption or the approval of an MOU, mutual understanding, with San Mateo County. So that's the Sustainability Office of San Mateo County. And the reason for this is that a portion of this 1383 is actually looking to increase the edible food recovery throughout San Mateo County. So everybody will be required to participate in or establish a program. And so the San Mateo County Office of Sustainability essentially stepped up, providing leadership for agencies in the unincorporated area in San Mateo County. And we're very happy that this is happening, that the county is taking this on. There's a lot of reporting requirements. So a portion of that still falls on us. But so we thought that it would be great to provide some information to the board in advance of the December 2nd meeting. There's a lot that we have to do at the next meeting. So we have here tonight Jack Johnson, who's the county's senior sustainability specialist for waste reduction, who can tell us about the program and how this would work on the county end. And I'm also glad to see Chris Porter. She's here as well and available for any questions. So with that, I would like to ask Jack to tell us just a little bit more about the program and how the MOU looks like and what our role is in this and what the county's role is in this.
Sure, happy to. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
I apologize. I'm having some trouble with my video and I can't broadcast, it seems. We decided 3.5 years ago that one county-wide edible food recovery program made a lot more sense than 23 individual ones did for efficiency and economies of scale. And so we convened all of the jurisdictions and offered to run one, and we've been building the program up since then. The legislation does require that every jurisdiction have an edible food recovery program, and in a certain sense, whether you need one or not. Montara Beach doesn't have a lot of generators, but you have to have a program, and we're happy to do what we can to help you all get compliant and do the record keeping and reporting and coordinate any edible food recovery generators that you do have and work with you all to make it happen. If you have any questions about it, I'm happy to answer it, or I can talk longer about it.
Okay, any board members have anybody have any questions? Anybody?
I'm a bit confused. I thought that Recology would be the one who takes in our future set aside digestible items. In what way is Recology working with the county?
Well, there are two different types of food waste. Edible food recovery is food that edible food generators, such as grocery stores, supermarkets, wholesalers, large venues, generate, that is fit for human consumption, which is different and distinct from food waste that goes into your compostable collection, which is what Recology is taking care of. The Office of Sustainability is overseeing the edible food recovery, which is different than what Recology is overseeing.
So is the San Mateo County then working with organizations like Second Harvest?
Yes, sir.
All right, Catherine.
Yes, thank you. I'm curious about the details of the program. It's going to be costing our ratepayers. We're going to have to be going with what I consider to be a relatively significant add-on cost to the increases that are going to be necessitated just by the normal costs of business. And I'm curious, what are we getting for this? Where it is, and I'm also concerned about who carries the insurance on this redistribution of food if somebody claims foodborne illness from having received some of these redistributed foods.
There is no charge for edible food recovery for your ratepayers. If there are any edible food generators in Montara Beach, there is no charge between the county and the edible food generators. It would be a charge between the edible food generators and the food recovery organizations if they are charging the generators for a pickup and redistribution charge. I don't know I don't know if you have any generators, and I don't know if there are any food recovery organizations yet. So I don't know what those charges may be.
So what is a generator?
An edible food generator is defined by the legislation. It is a grocery store, supermarket, a wholesaler, a school, a large venue, a hospital, a large hotel, a large restaurant, a food service provider. And that's why I'm saying I don't think there are very many, if any, in Montara Beach. Chris may be able to answer.
The one identifiable food preparer in the district is Fairlawn View School. And right now they're not doing schools. They're not doing complete lunch and breakfast programs. So that's something that we'll have to watch as we move into the new year.
And so if that's a public school, they will be overseen for education and outreach by my office, but their enforcement will come from Cal Recycle by the state in 2 years. If that's the only edible food generator in Montara, then there won't be even anything to do, except reporting back to Cal Recycle that there was nothing to do.
Okay, any other questions?
Well, she had a question about foodborne illness and that sort of thing.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Due to the Good Samaritan law, if you have donated edible food in good faith to a nonprofit, you are absolved of any responsibility for things that happen after the fact.
And who provides the defense if somebody files a lawsuit?
Well, not the Montara Waste Sanitation District.
So our ratepayers would not, except they may have to through the school's insurance then.
I don't believe so. I don't believe so, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Rick.
Just a quick comment. I think I commented a meeting or so ago. John Oliver, one of the late night hosts, ran a series of articles on excess food waste, starting from the farms who overproduce so they can little insurance and also pick the prettiest fruit, to grocery stores who overstock, to restaurants who overstock and overserve, to people at home who toss food away. And the goodness, as I'll say, of this kind of program is when all this other food is tossed into fields and recycled, the big problem is it's a massive methane producer, much worse than petroleum. So any program that takes edible food and keeps it from becoming waste and just thrown into pits is a good thing for everybody. So since this won't cost anything here, I think we can help out on publicity and everything else, help Fairlawn School, whatever, because not throwing it into fields and garbage pits, which would be, composting. The bad news about composting is that it rots like it's supposed to and creates methane. So the better solution is to not create the waste in the first place. So thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay.
I have maybe a question. So how defined is where that food actually ends up, Jack?
Well, it's a little bit different on the coast than it is on the bay side. Currently, the major partner that we have on the coast is Pacifica Resource Center. We've been in contract with them for about 3 years now. They pick up and redistribute throughout Pacifica, parts of Daly City and Colma. And I don't know that they will come down into Montara, but we've been in contact with Coastside Hope, and I hope that that Coastside Hope becomes an edible food recovery organization and one of our partners, and begins to do to serve the area from Montara south to Pescadero.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Okay, Chris.
I'm on the board of the Pacifica Resource Center, and I've already begun the discussions with them as to when this new program goes into place, and we're discussing the logistics of getting this food when it's available.
Great.
I just want to clarify that in Half Moon Bay, the Ted Edcock Center next to the post office, there is a regular distribution every 2 weeks by Second Harvest. I'm volunteering there to hand out the food. I know Second Harvest is a regular supplier to the coastside.
Well, great.
Yes, sir. They're a wonderful partner of ours.
Okay. Thank you for coming, Jack, and helping with that.
Certainly.
That's a great service. All right. Item number 2 on new business: review and possible action concerning water main extension agreement for new service connection at 1490 Cypress, Montara, APN 036-261-180. Clemens.
Yeah, thank you. So we have an application from the Morris family to essentially extend for an application for our service from Montara Water and Sanitary District, and mainline extension from Sunshine Valley Road is required. And here we have our standard agreement that we asked the board to or that we asked permission to execute. So we are asking to adopt a resolution approving the water main extension and authorizing the execution of the agreement for construction and acquisition of water main extension for the new water service connection project at 1490 Cypress Street, under the conditions that the applicant will provide proof of insurance, payment bond, faithful performance bond in order to fully execute the agreement prior to construction of the water main. So our standard process that we apply to this project.
Okay, Greg, want to start off?
Yeah, you've heard this before, only the difference is I've done some reading that I think Scott requested I do last time. So it's 99 pages of code you have on the website. So I may be missing or misunderstanding things, but I wanted to ask some questions for clarification. So for sewer laterals, the maintenance, construction, installation, repair, and replacement, blah, 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 are the responsibility at no cost to the district of the owner of the parcel served thereby. My understanding is that's in perpetual responsibility of the homeowner for the sewer lateral. So my question is, conceptually, what's the difference between an extension for a mainline water connection and a sewer lateral? In this case, it also involves additional assets that serve only the property or properties connected. It will have additional operation, maintenance, and more importantly, perpetual asset replenishment costs. Yet they're paying the same water rates as everybody else, even though they create an extra burden on the rest of the ratepayers if that asset's absorbed into the system. So this code, as I understand it, has the force of law and is endorsed and created by the board. So why do you treat sewer laterals differently than mainline water extensions? We're approaching $1 million in assets now in the last 12 months. that the district has absorbed to serve new water customers, and yet it's not getting any incremental revenue for those expenses above and beyond the rates everybody else is paying. So can somebody explain this to me?
So I can speak to your question about what is a main line and what is a lateral. And I'm actually going to send you back to the code because you will find the definitions in the code.
I've read them.
I believe it's called a side sewer.
That's right.
In the code, not a lateral. And I don't have the definition in front of me, but a main line is essentially the pipe that we're talking now about sewer. By the way, this mainline extension is a water mainline extension. So we're not talking about sewer here.
That's right.
But the sewer mainline is essentially a shared pipe in the public right-of-way that follows the street or follows the public right-of-way. A lateral is essentially the almost by definition, a 90-degree coming out of a 90-degree angle most of the time to the property, actually serving only the individual home. So that's the difference between the lateral. So the lateral essentially transports the sewage to the district-owned sewer mainline, and that is the common pipe. The shared pipe is the mainline.
So you didn't answer my question. Maybe it's better if I put it in writing. I understand that a side sewer is defined as the sewer inside the building and the lateral. I've read the definitions. And I'm just saying conceptually, we don't absorb those costs into the district. Those are the property owner's costs. Yet the extra cost to be paid for a mainline extension, the district does end up absorbing. And I don't understand why the code doesn't treat that the same way. But if it would help, I'll put it in writing. I'll even suggest changes to the code because it looks to me like we're subsidizing growth at the expense of existing ratepayers. That's the way it looks based on what I've read.
Sure, please put it in writing. But I think I answered the question by pointing out that it's a common shared community sewer that serves more than one home or has the capability of serving more than one home versus the lateral is exclusively for one specific property.
But that also applies to the water main, correct? The water mains can serve more than one home and is part of the district and might serve more than one home in the future, correct?
The code specifically says if your mainline extension serves more than one property, you're entitled to a refund. I don't see that as applicable in this particular property owner case or even Big Wave. It's just for their lot.
There is developable property along that main line, for example. So there is potential for future development along that line.
Okay.
So then we might have to refund some of the money we're taking and give it back to this guy.
No. No, I think if you are gonna look back at the code and read through, you probably can find what I'm telling you right now, essentially that if the customer wants to recover some of the cost that he's paying for the installation, he would need to find a private agreement with the developer. So the district would not be involved.
There's the same thing with.
I don't want to drag it on. I'll put my questions in writing because either I don't understand or I don't like what I'm hearing, one of the two.
Okay, Catherine.
Thank you. Greg, I have a question for you. Are you suggesting that the district should not serve new development that's within a service area?
No, not at all. I'm just suggesting that the new development should pay all incremental costs for its service in perpetuity, and that existing ratepayers should not bear those extra costs.
Well, I would appreciate it if you could find some districts that actually do that. Because I know California has, and they need to be in California because California has very specific rules that apply to public utility districts. And so I'd like to find out more about this. I know we cannot deny service to anyone unless we have some kind of moratorium that is not necessarily
This is-
caused by us, and we have to have a verifiable lack of service. And
All
in
right,
neither
I will-
case are we
I
there.
will do that. Because I've been told by GMs from public works agencies that there are, for example, extra charges for different service zones that are further away from the plants, et cetera. So there is this concept that if you burden more, you pay more. But
Well,
I'll get specifics.
that's true. And just for a quick aside, way back when Citizens Utility had so kindly offered, or Coastside County Water had so kindly offered to take over Montara, they were going to establish us as a special zone and charge us more to fix our district. But there are certain conditions that need to be met with that. And I don't think that a new connection in the middle of our district qualifies, but I'm always interested in learning. So thank you.
Okay. All right. Any other questions or comments on that issue? All right. We'll go on to number 3 of new business.
Do we need a motion on that or anything, Jim?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. We need a motion, don't we? Clemens? Okay. So let's who wants to make the motion?
So move to
Okay.
do
I'll
all
second
that.
that.
And Peter second. All right. Okay. Tracy.
Okay. Director Decker,
Yes,
Director Harvey,
Aye.
Director Loman,
Yes,
Director Slater Carter.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. All right. Now going on to number 3. Review and possible action concerning approval of well maintenance.
Right, thanks, Jim. So we have here a bundle of 3 proposals essentially that we like the board to approve for some work on some of our wells. And since this is a bigger cost, we bring it to the board. We do a lot of this type of work with much smaller expenditures throughout the year or throughout the years. So I'm happy that the board sees a little bit what we're actually doing almost on a day-to-day basis. So we have, first of all, a quote from Montara for essentially the rebuild of the wellhead. The well has been in service since quite some time. It was built in 2006, put in service in around 2007. And by now, some of the metal portions of the wellhead, the piping that comes out directly out of the ground there, is corroded. And it's to a point that we would like to address this. At the same time, you almost by definition, if you do work on that, you have to pull the pump. That is still the original pump that was put in 2007. So we would like to change out the pump, and that is probably the biggest item on this quote for this work. The pump is rather expensive. I believe it's the largest pump that we have in the district. The well is the deepest, and therefore the horsepower that is required is the most we have in any of our wells. So to summarize once more, this work would involve a drill rig coming out, pulling the apertures, and reinstalling new apertures. The reason why we're bringing this right now is so that the wellhead can actually be built off-site, and we plan to take the well then out of service for a much shorter period and have a wellhead essentially ready assembled to go in place. The second quote, or one of the other quotes, is for the district's Portola 4 well. That well was re-drilled and actually deepened. I think that was in 2017. And during that operation, that well, actually the lower portion of the well collapsed. So we have here essentially a number of options, and we're taking a little bit of chance with this, and that is there is a chance that this well could collapse going forward, but we don't think so. That goes back on from the observations from balance hydrologics that were on site and the well drillers themselves. We believe that this well could be cleaned out essentially and then put in service. Now that it's been drilled deeper, it will actually produce more than before. If that fails and the well collapses again, then we would have to, if we would want to reinstall this, get this well back on service, we would switch over to mud rotary drilling. And that is essentially the type of drilling that you see on oil rigs. So it's a lot more complicated, a lot more expensive. There's a lot more containment required. It's not simple air rotary drilling that we apply normally. And it is very expensive. So that's why we're thinking it is actually worth giving it a shot, trying to fix the well with this $9,400. Also, the Portola 1 well is actually relatively close to the Portola 4 well and could also be an alternative to the Portola 4 well if it collapses. So we suggest to essentially rehabilitate, also deepen a little bit the Portola 1 well to bring it back into service. And that's a quote of $20,300. We're pretty confident that this well would not collapse. It is in solid rock. The Portola 4 well produced sand before, so that's where we knew that there was a chance to, that some of that sloughs in. Portola 1 well doesn't have a history of sand produce, has never produced sand, so we're pretty confident it's absolutely dense, solid rock down there. And we would like to go in, clean it out, drill it a bit deeper for $20,300 and bring it back on service. I do want to point out that on the Portola 4 and 1 well, there, I mean, this is really for the drilling, for that actual deepening, getting the hole cleaned out and so on. There could be other costs, or there are other costs associated. First of all, we would like our hydrogeologist, balance hydrologic, to be present on the Portola 1 well redrill. Should be proper documented. We believe that cost is less than $10,000. And as I mentioned, or what also could come on top of that is potentially, if this all works out, new apertures. I have to say the pumps for the Portola wells are much cheaper. They're lower horsepower. We see in the Portola 3 well, I think we have a 4 horsepower pump. So they're much cheaper and much more economical. So that wouldn't be a high cost. What we're doing here is we're asking the board also to sole source the project to Majora Brothers. We have historically worked in the Montara mountain aquifer exclusively with Majora due to the difficulties working in essentially granite. And we've worked with other contractors in on other wells on our non-consolidated sediment situations that are much more standard. When it comes to solid rock, you need a very experienced drill operator. And we know that Majora can provide that and has provided that in the past. In the past, this district sole sourced all of these projects to Majora for this very reason. Also, the equipment, as I mentioned, it could get complicated, and we're confident that Majora has the proper equipment, has the right equipment for this job. Other drill operators are equipped to do well jobs, but this requires some So we have the recommendation to adopt the resolution of the Montara Water and Sanitary District approving and authorizing waiver of competitive bidding for well maintenance repairs, waive the formal bidding requirements on the ground that the personnel and associated equipment for the work are available from a sole source, approve contract documents and authorize the manager to accept proposal and execute contract documents up to $75,000 for the 3 well repairs. Thank you.
All right, any comments?
Yes.
Peter?
Have we played this scenario or this approach by SRT, by Tanya of SRT and by Balance Hydrologic as the best way to go forward?
We have been working on with getting the quotes, etc., with Balance Hydrologic. Yes, they're informed, and we've historically worked with Balance on this. Yes.
I think Peter asked if you've working with also with SRT.
SRT knows about it and has been informed, and I've talked to Tanya a couple of times about this, but Balance is really the one that we want to go out, that has that expertise in reviewing the quotes, for example. All of that we run usually through Balance. So
Okay.
of course SRT is informed. Absolutely.
Okay. Anything else, Peter?
No.
Okay,
I'd like to make a motion next in order to adopt this resolution.
Time out real quick. Christine and Clemens, since these wells, some of them are at the bottom of my property, do any of them require that I not vote on this?
Is it within 500 feet of your property?
I'm not
Yes,
sure
so-
for a total of 3, which I think is the one at the bottom of my property.
We're not talking Portola 3. We're talking, there's at least one property between you. It's on Grant Street further up. So I don't think we're within 500 feet of your property. Rick.
That's
We're
good. Thanks.
we're not.
Thanks
Okay,
for raising it, though.
good.
Yes.
Okay, any other comments? Do we have, Catherine made a motion? Do we
I'll
have a
second it.
second?
Second.
Okay, Rick. Okay. Let's go have a vote.
Director Decker,
Aye.
Director Harvey,
Aye.
Director Loman,
Yes.
Director Slater Carter.
Yes.
All right, passes unanimously. All right, item number 4, review and possible action concerning San Mateo County, quote, connect the coast side, end quote, final plan draft.
All right, thanks, Scott, Jim. So the final draft of the Connect the Coast plan was released. And so the next step really is in January 2020, that goes to the Planning Commission. They're considering a recommendation. Then that goes to the San Mateo County Board of Supervisors in spring 2022. Now, the whole implementation of the plan is, this is a long-term plan. There's quite a bit of time involved. We have been working with the planners that were hired for this project in the preparation, because there are some improvements identified along Highway 1 in Montara and Moss Beach that essentially have a potential of affecting Montara Water Sanitary District and or Sewer Authority Mid-Coast side facilities. For example, we have, there's a suggested roundabout on 16th Street, and we just spent a lot of money fixing our pipes on 16th Street, particularly getting them out of the traveled right-of-way. So a sewer lid is a bad idea. Sewer manhole lid is a bad idea on a highway. So that's where we spent a lot of money to move this equipment over. There is very little space on this section because just north of 16th Street is essentially this dam that I'm going to call it a road dam, or it was dammed up. so that's Montara Creek that flows actually underneath. So it's very narrow. That's probably the highest concern that we have for MWSD. But there are also some SAM facilities for other roundabouts that could be impacted. Additionally, we have our entrance and entrance gate right there. Need to be able to maneuver large trucks. It is already not ideal. So we're hoping this could actually, if this is implemented, if at all, it could be an improvement for the safety of our employees, particularly moving the heavy SAM equipment in and out. So also for SAM employees. So Director Slater Carter asked for this to be brought up at this time. And I understand the idea is to establish an ad hoc committee that could follow this along and that staff could work with. And yeah, so that is the recommendation is really to establish an ad hoc committee to review and comment on plan developments on behalf of the Montara Water and Sanitary District.
Okay, thank you. Greg?
I certainly don't have a problem with the recommendation, but I think at this point I should tell you a little bit about the MCC's review of this. There has been a lot of concern by some members of the MCC in the community that Connect the Coast Side is misguided, unnecessary, and expensive. We have asked for, and I think grudgingly been granted the right to delay our comment into January. They were hoping for quick comments, but this thing is really long. And frankly, part of the process they used to create it was somewhat illegitimate. If you participated in those sham public comment meetings where they broke people into separate groups to suppress the knowledge that everybody would have otherwise exchanged. Unlike a group like MWSD or the MCC, where you have a loud and long public forum and everybody knows what everybody's thinking. But I think there's an opportunity here because Clemens had previously brought up the issue of pressurized sewer mains along Highway 1. And I think the figure $10 million might have been raised. And it kind of washed right over the heads of the young planning people. But I'm hoping there might be an opportunity here in that if we do get into the situation where we're putting 3 roundabouts in a 1.5 mile stretch, and where a massive amount of work is going to be needed to reroute, could we not tie that in with reimagining the entire sewer treatment and facility for the coast side, ideas of package plants, who knows what, and get the funding for some of that in conjunction with the funding that's going to need to be raised. At its heart, Joe Leclerc told me in a private conversation, this document is really sort of like job security for the planning department. It's a design to raise money. So why not see if we can't bundle in with that work something that works to the betterment of the mid-coast in redoing sewer and I don't know about water, you guys would know more. So I'll just raise that as a possibility. I certainly agree with the ad hoc committee. And I think we ought to stay in touch when it comes to what comments we register.
Okay, any other comments?
I think that's a great idea, Greg, and I look forward to having the MWSD committee work with you. The county has a long history of every once in a while actually pulling through on one of its plans. And if you don't stay on top of each and every one of them, the one you don't pay attention to is the one that's probably going to nail you in the back. This one is very, very important to the infrastructure of Montara and Moss Beach, not Montara Beach. Although I might start using that. Or Mossera or something, Mossiera. But it, I just think we've got to keep an eye on it. There is some good language in the plans that does somewhat address having us MWSD involved. And one of the things that came out, for instance, is that for SAM, the intertie pipeline system is actually in pretty good shape all the way down to about, down through Montara and Moss Beach. And some had been saying it needed major replacement, but we've done examinations of it, and indeed it doesn't need that. But I do like the idea of reimagining our sewer system. As you've heard me say in the past, our sewer system was designed with the 19th century models of a central sewer plant, regardless of all of the hazards, natural hazards that are in the area. And so we've got major earthquake faults, we've got liquefaction zones, we've got tsunami zones, and so on and so on. And it really does, I haven't been able to find anybody who says, no, it doesn't make any sense not to rethink this. Except of course the state regulators who love the bigger is better kind of scenario. But that said, this is an opportunity to at least be pushing that thought forward. And so, yeah, I look forward to working with the county and with Coastal Commission. I want to thank Ann Rothman, who brought this to the attention of the district when they were having a meeting, when the county was having a meeting. And I went, oh, right. I was involved in that early on, and when they finally decided to go with roundabouts instead of stoplights, I was happy, because just imagine 3 stoplights in a mile. People might confuse us for Half Moon Bay.
Yeah. Catherine, besides yourself, anybody else want to volunteer for that?
Who else would like to volunteer for that?
I'd like to volunteer for that.
I was hoping you would, Peter.
Okay, Peter and Catherine, thank you. Any other comments? Rick?
Yeah, just real quick, to back up Greg and Catherine's comments, everybody should know by now that trillions of dollars were just released for infrastructure improvements. And if we're going to look at grants, now's probably a really good time to look for combo grants to solve most of our coastside problems.
Yeah.
So this would be good. Thank you.
Well, I will say that the comment by the Secretary of Transportation was that they are not looking for shovel-ready projects. Now they're looking for shovel-worthy projects. So we'll have to do a sales job on this too.
We're worthy.
We're worthy. All right. All right. Let's go on to reports. Sewer Authority Mid-Coast Side meetings.
I think we still need to establish a committee.
Oh, I think we did.
It was me and Peter.
Peter and Catherine.
Okay.
Okay, so should we go on? Anyone else? Any other comments on that? All right, reports. Sewer Authority Mid-Coast Side. Catherine.
Oh, help, Rick. I can't remember anything tonight.
I'm calling up the agenda right now, so.
Oh, thank you.
Half Moon Bay delayed the establishment of the non-domestic wastewater control program.
Half Moon Bay
Granada
and
split.
Granada. And Granada.
Well, Granada split, but yeah.
Well, Granada sided with Half Moon Bay with 1 vote, and that allowed it to be delayed. And it has been delayed since July 1 of this year. I was looking through some notes. It's actually been delayed longer than that, but we started trying to get going on the non-domestic waste program in July, and it has been drug out. And I don't see, I made a motion that we establish it at SAM and spend the next year working on some alternatives, but that was defeated.
Will that be on? Will that come up again on the next agenda?
In
You better
addition to
believe
that, The general managers had basically, from what I understand, agreed to move forward with the program, which would hit all the businesses and not isolate and attack, the breweries and the distilleries. So that was seemed to be all agreed. So we were all waiting at the meeting to go. And then Half Moon Bay said, well, no, we're not going to do that. And then
Right.
half of Granada went along with that. There was another item about they've instituted some new odor control down there in Granada, which everybody said has been a major reduction in problems of sewage or odors down there also. This will be, Half Moon Bay said they will bring a plan to the next SAM meeting, which will be Monday, I guess. And we shall see.
Okay, we'll all be watching that.
So my analysis of this stuff after having mulled over this for months and months is, and read Granada's ordinance. Granada's ordinance is very undetailed and unspecific. Essentially, it says that if a non-domestic waste program member or business causes problems in the sewer plant, there's a problem. Half Moon Bay and Montara and SAM have very specific numbers on the amounts of things that can be put into the sewers. Those numbers were established in 1991. That was just yesterday for some of us, but quite a while for younger people. Somewhere along the line, Granada amended their ordinance, and I see that that's one of the major problems with the confusion of the business owners in Granada and some of the problems that they have been expressing, because they don't know what Granada can or can't do. If you have specific numbers, you know whether you meet those numbers or you don't meet those numbers. And that's pretty much the standard from what I've seen in any industry anymore. You get things very specific. To have loose standards that require some kind of proof that it was causing the problem, well, you see what happened. Everybody says, oh, it wasn't us, it wasn't us. And then back to Greg's problem, the ratepayers are the ones who pick up the bill, even the ratepayers who aren't in that district. So I believe that one of the things that has to be changed in all of this is that we have to have a very identical ordinances for all 4 agencies, so that no one in any of the agencies feels picked on or and they all know what to expect, and they can take their waste in for a private treatment, if private testing, if they want, and find out whether they meet these standards or not. Or whether they're in violation, then they can talk to Sam or whoever about what to do about it. But Granada has absolutely said our ordinance is fine and we refuse to do anything about it. I believe Granada is causing a lot of these problems just with their fuzzy logic kind of, well, it's not even fuzzy logic, it's just fuzzy grammar, fuzzy writing in their ordinances. And I also don't think Montara should pay for their fuzzy logic and the problems they are bringing to SAM. And I think our ratepayers deserve not to be paying for badly written ordinance in another district. So
Yeah.
that's the position I'm taking.
Yeah, before Greg jumps in, Montara is taking a very firm stance that there is tons of language in the contracts, the JPAs, the ordinances that describes how SAM is supposed to run the system. This means that each of the agencies can't just do whatever they want. Our position is we can easily negotiate who has which contact with the businesses, but it all has to be under the umbrella, I'll just use that, of SAM, because that's what all the ordinances say. And that's what we're holding firm to. So
The ordinances that that had been passed years ago.
passed, approved by everybody, and we have to follow that for now or just change everything. So that's what we've been standing up to at the SAM meetings.
Okay, Greg.
I don't know if you covered this in your last meeting, but that storm on October 24th that caused a 3 million gallon sewer spill in Pacifica caused no spill whatsoever at SAM, came within half a foot of overflowing, but thanks to the timely installation of the wet water treatment stuff,
Wet weather.
SAM and the whole mid-coast came out clean. So kudos to everybody involved in pushing for that, if you didn't already mention it. The other thing I wanted to mention is the possibility that somebody brings regulators in on Pacifica and potentially SAM for the lack of the non-domestic wastewater control program. Before somebody does something rash, I'd appreciate any comments you might want to make on the idea that we ask the Regional Water Quality Control Board to step in, because the ratepayers at SAM are getting screwed by what I'm assuming are commercial users, and nobody's doing anything about it. So just a thought.
I'd
Right.
like to follow up on that. The original project was supposed to be 600,000 gallons. Thanks to Half Moon Bay, we are, and actually thanks to Beverly Marshall, who managed to negotiate with a major pipe break to get another 200,000 gallons added with using the fine, some of the money from the fines for the pipe break from 2017. But we still need another 200,000 gallons. And if anybody is going to be talking to anyone about any of this stuff, certainly having 200,000 gallons of extra storage in that same location, given the growth on the coast side and potential growth in Princeton and other places, it would be like a lifeboat to protect our beaches and our communities. I'm not sure if the regional boards are doing that kind of negotiating now, but I tried when we were doing the 4 additional 200,000 gallons. I tried to get it up to 4 because the
Right.
costs would have been so much less than they will be in the near future and
Right.
even further on. Half Moon Bay has no storage. 0. They rely on storage in the IPS and now in our additional storage system. I found a note I made, and Christine, you have my deep apologies. I didn't put a date on it, but it's an old note. And it has times from a Half Moon Bay meeting. And in this meeting, it says at 1 hour and 15 minutes and 23 seconds in, but God knows how many meetings ago that was, that Harvey Rarebeck said they rely on the storage in the IPS.
I'd love to see that.
Love to
but
see
I
that.
I would also, I would also
have my
suggest,
note, but I don't have a date on it.
let's suggest that Half Moon Bay should pay for the next storage on their side of the system, since they already declined to put it in the IPS, and now it's going to be a lot more expensive. Let's have them add a few 100,000 gallons on their end. We've done our bit.
I think that's a great plan. I tried suggesting that in 2017, and you should have seen the horrified looks on the faces of the Half Moon Bay staff and board members. I even had talked to Beverly Marshall about a good location for it, and there is even probably they could find a location for it on SAM. So it could actually be a SAM project. But that's certainly on my wish list. But anyway, So that's essentially what's going on at SAM. Thank you for the reminders, Greg and Rick and everyone.
Okay, great. Thank you, Rick and Catherine. Mid-Coast Community Council meeting. Greg?
Well, we covered some of it already, but we do have this consulting study, a scoping study for fire risk, wildfire risk in El Granada and extended area. The way we drew the circle in our exchange of documents was including the Martini Creek Highway bypass lands. I did see the letter that Caltrans's letter replying about your letter and setting up some other hurdles to jump through. We'll do our best to get that stuff looked at and to define the zone of influences, including all the eucalyptus in that area, and see what we can do. As you know, we tried to put it on the local hazard mitigation plan for FEMA money as well. But anyway, that project's going to be starting, I hope, real soon. And I'll just keep you informed, because there's potentially some risk and fallout to the watershed in Montara, depending on how it's handled. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Greg. CSDA report. Rick?
Nothing has really happened. The last meeting was canceled because the current president wants to go around and talk to each of the special districts, of which there are like 25 or 26 in the county, and see what they really want these meetings to be. We've had a lot of troubles with email lists and notifications, and we had a public speaker and only 4 districts showed up because we didn't even know there was a meeting. That's all being worked out, and we'll hopefully have something for the next quarter.
Okay. The next one is the LAFCO report. Rick?
Yeah, I'd like to spend a couple extra minutes on this one. Normally, I just blow through this. The standard meeting itself was approving another annexation by somebody in unincorporated into a district. They talked about the audit and how the finances are really pretty simple at LAFCO. So there was no issues with any kind of, auditing issues. They're just doing just fine. But the big issue was I received a letter a couple of weeks ago from Martha Poriatis, the executive director. And in her clever little way, she said that she had decided to shrink her sphere of influence and retire from LAFCO at the end of this year. The county will be going out and looking at other people and stuff like that. Martha has been there working for the county for 28 years. She's done a lot of stuff for us on the coast. She helped Granada when I was there get Parks Powers, which is the only time any special district in San Mateo expanded their influence and powers. I've talked to her on many occasions about annexations and mergers and things like that, and she's kept me in line on that. So there were tons of speakers from the head of California LAFCO and on down with resolutions and stuff like that. But I'd like to close my comments with a comment she made, and she quoted a slightly modified quote of A.A. Milne, famous of Winnie the Pooh, as I believe. And she said, I'll get this out. How lucky am I to have had a career that makes saying goodbye so hard. Thank you.
Wow. Okay. Thank you, Rick. Catherine and Clemens, you want to go first? Clemens?
Yeah, sure. Rick, I just have a question. You just mentioned that she has worked for San Mateo County for a very long time, over 20 years, and that now San Mateo County is looking for someone else and going out for this. It's my understanding that the Local Agency Formation Commission is supposed to be completely independent from San Mateo County. Yeah, that's not really the case here.
If I can quickly address that.
Yeah, so what is-
That's
so-
one of Martha's main functions and things that she's done is she has kept it totally separate. The actual recruitment has to go through the county manager. But LAFCO, I believe, will have the power to approve it, the commission. So she's, other than sharing office space, she has worked her entire career keeping it something that the county itself and the Board of Supervisors do not run. LAFCO has maintained its total independence, but the actual hiring, LAFCO is not a recruiting organization, so it has to go through, I believe, the county manager to put out, RFPs and requests and stuff like that. LAFCO, the commission itself, will actually approve the hiring.
Okay. Catherine.
Yeah, I worked with Martha, Paul and I worked with Martha a whole lot early on. The fellow she replaced had been working hard to fill the LAFCO mandates of consolidation of districts and had been very much a problem for the smaller districts on the coast side. And so Martha, we were not quite sure about Martha, but she has been a advocate of good government and representative government and the whole time she's been here, and she's truly going to be missed.
Yeah.
And I hope we can find somebody who shares her values of representative government for all the communities and responsible government as well. So yeah, she's going to be missed, but I know she loves softball, and so she'll probably find a league and become a star there.
Okay, any other comments?
No.
Okay, thank you. All right.
If I could just say real quick,
Sure,
we
Rick.
are writing a letter,
Okay,
not a formal resolution, but we will be writing a letter just thanking her
okay,
for her
good.
service, signed by all the board members. So
Oh, great.
it'll be a nice thing to do.
Oh, great. Thank you, Rick. All right, so we're going to attorney's report. Christine?
No report. Thank you, Director Harvey.
Okay, any directors have reports?
Nothing else.
Okay, if none, general manager's report. Clemens?
Yeah, we switched this week to a new phone system. As part of the reason is, of course, updating our phones, our very old phone system. The other reason is to get our outrageous phone bills a little bit under control. So far, this affects only the 728-3545 number. But so if you call now our office, you will have a slightly different experience. Yeah, let us know what you think about this, but there is now a menu that essentially tells you
Great.
water emergency, press this button, sewer emergency, press this button, staff, third button. And so you will get somebody on the line very quickly.
Okay, great. All right, future agendas. A couple public hearing, SMC County Edible Food Recovery Program, MOU, public hearing, Proposition 218, solid waste fees, public hearing, revisions to the master fee schedule, code amendments addressing requirements in regards to ADUs and SB 9s, SB 10s, temporary changes to vacation payout and scheduling due to COVID-19, and receipt of FY 2021 audit. And any other future agendas? Requests? Okay, if not, we're going to In a minute, we're going to take a break and convene in closed sessions for conference with legal counsel, existing litigation, Government Code 54956.9, case name City of Half Moon Bay versus Granada Community Service District et al., Santa Clara County Superior Court number 17CV316927. Also, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, significant exposure to litigation pursuant to paragraph 2 of subdivision of Government Code 54956.9, one potential case. Conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation of the same government code, another potential case. And that's it for a closed session. So so now it's 8:42. We'll go ahead and meet at 10 to 9. Okay, so that'll give us 7 minutes, 8 minutes to take a break. Okay, thank you everybody for attending. And,